Don't let YouTube decide what information you get. That's your choice. YouTube is deleting our videos and cuts you off from a source of honest reporting. Make sure you don't lose access to NTD's news content, and take a quick moment to subscribe to our newsletter so no matter what happens here, you'll keep your access to a trustworthy news source.
And the first university in the U.S. to mandate COVID vaccines is being sued. An advocacy group and students are accusing Rutgers of violating state and federal law. NTD's Miguel Moreno has more from one of those students. He says his education depends on whether or not the university approves his application for a religious exemption.
Rutgers University in New Jersey made a splash when they issued their COVID vaccine mandate. Other universities and colleges followed.
All over the country, you hear people just really upset about it.
Peter Cordy will be a senior at Rutgers University this fall. Cordy, together with 17 other students and an advocacy group called Children's Health Defense, are suing the university. They're accusing Rutgers of violating state and federal law by requiring students to take emergency use COVID vaccines. Cordy says his education will come to a stop if they reject his religious exemption application.
So Rutgers hasn't responded to your religious exemption application. Do you have any reason to believe they'll reject it?
I hope not. I know that there have been people who have had theirs rejected, and I know several people who've had it accepted too. If it is rejected though, that would be pretty devastating to me. It really would be, because I would have to put everything, my whole life on hold for at least another semester, and we'll see if they have the mandate again next semester, but there's no reason to believe that they won't. So it might be a whole year or more before I can finish my degree.
According to Rutgers, students may request an exemption for medical or religious reasons, both of which the suit claims the university rejected for some students. Rutgers says the vaccine mandate is to prevent the risk of transmission of COVID-19 among all persons at Rutgers. Here's their president with CBS.
For those who simply don't want to, the fact is there are lots of other options for them for their education. I hate to say it that harshly, but that's the fact. We will have the safest possible campus.
But Children's Health Defense is accusing them of discrimination.
Those students have to be vaccinated, but university staff does not. Why is that?
I'm not sure why they're not. A lot of this doesn't make sense.
We asked Rutgers why this is, but they didn't get back to us before the broadcast. The suit lays out additional issues, like the fact that the vaccines are emergency use only, yet they're being mandated without data on their long-term effects on the body.
Look, Rutgers has been my dream school since I was in probably 5th grade. I have been wearing Rutgers gear since I was little. To this day, if you see me on the street, I'm probably wearing either my Rutgers shirt or my Rutgers hat. I have probably a shirt for every day of the week and then some. So instead of leaving the school that I love so much, people like myself really need to be holding Rutgers accountable and fighting back against terrible policies like this, whether it's through litigation or through, coming on shows like this.
With nearly 71,000 students, Rutgers says they've got 99.5% compliance with the vaccination requirement. That figure includes 1.2% who have applied for and received a medical or religious exemption. Miguel Moreno, NTD News.
And the Biden administration is planning to give immigration officers the ability to approve illegal immigrants claiming asylum, taking the decision away from judges. The move is part of the administration's blueprint for dramatically altering the country's immigration system. NTD's Grace Coulter has the story.
Immigration officers instead of judges could soon be the ones approving or denying asylum cases. In a notice on the proposed changes, the Justice Department and the Department of Homeland Security said Wednesday that a backlog of asylum cases means the system needs repair, and that the aim of giving immigration officers this ability is to begin replacing the current system. The proposed process would give officers in U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services the sole power to approve applications for asylum and withholding from deportation. If an application is denied, the applicant could request an immigration judge to review it. DOJ and DHS officials said the new rule will reduce caseloads on immigration courts and speed up the process. Attorney General Merrick Garland said in a statement, "Today marks a step forward in our effort to make the asylum process fairer and more expeditious." DHS Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas said of the move, "We are building an immigration system that is designed to ensure due process, respect human dignity, and promote equity." Most asylum cases are rejected, including roughly 90% of claims from Central Americans. The backlog of immigration cases sits at around 1.3 million, including approximately 610,000 pending asylum claims. A number of immigration experts have said the situation's been exacerbated by the Biden administration's ending of the Trump-era Remain in Mexico program and by the leap in illegal border crossings since President Biden took office in January. Grace Coulter, NTD News.
A group in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania held a speaker series event to discuss critical race theory. The event's key speaker shared her experiences of living in China during the Cultural Revolution and the similarities she sees in America today.
Philadelphia, Pennsylvania's Area 16 Republican Committee held a We the People speaker series event titled How Communism Has Infiltrated America. The August 17th event featured key speaker Ms. Xi Van Fleet, who discussed the similarities between critical race theory, or CRT, and the Chinese Cultural Revolution.
I spent my entire school years in Mao's Cultural Revolution. So I know what communism is about. So I'm telling you, communism is here. It's here. Because I lived through it, I'm living through it right now.
Fleet explained that in 1949, Mao Zedong first overthrew the Chinese nationalist government, which is now in Taiwan. He then launched the Great Proletarian Cultural Revolution to divide people and to erase traditional Chinese history and culture.
Because Mao used the same tactics that the left, the radical left, is using now from the same playbook, cultural Marxism.
She said that the Chinese Communist Party used social divisions to divide people and to create enemies, similar to what critical race theory is doing in the United States. One attendee said she has personally seen some of the parallels Fleet mentioned.
They're bringing in CRT under the guise of diversity, equity, and inclusion. And one of the things she talked about today was about children and families telling on each other when they step out of line. And it rang a bell for me because in our district, and I'm in Downingtown School District, we currently have a program being put in place called See Something, Say Something.
Another said that CRT promotes equity but discriminates against certain races.
If the kids grow up thinking that as a white person I'm just bad and I should never be allowed to have the kind of things in life that I should have no matter how hard I try, I don't want to see that for our country. I want everyone to excel. I want everyone to work hard for what they have in this country.
The event allowed people to share, discuss, and learn more about what CRT is and its potential impacts on families and society.
Texas can continue to ban the most common abortion procedures for terminating second trimester pregnancies. The Fifth U.S. Court of Appeals is upholding the Texas law, reversing a ruling last year by a 3-judge panel of the same court.
Dilation and evacuation, or D&E, is the standard abortion procedure used after 15 weeks of pregnancy. The newly reinstated law forbids D&E abortions unless an additional procedure is first performed to bring about the demise of the fetus, which a dissenting judge wrote would force women into, quote, painful, invasive, expensive treatments that pose significantly elevated risks to the woman's health. Similar D&E abortion bans in other states have been struck down by the courts, according to the Center for Reproductive Rights. The Fifth U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals decision marks the first time a federal court has upheld a ban on the procedure and reverses last year's ruling by a 3-judge panel on the same court that said the law was unconstitutional. Physicians who are found to have violated the measure would face up to 2 years in prison.
We're about to make it law.
The ruling comes 3 months after Texas Governor Greg Abbott signed into law a separate bill banning abortions outright as early as 6 weeks. Several abortion rights groups have filed suit to block that measure before it takes effect on September 1st.
Chinese telecom giant Huawei is once again being accused of technology theft and spying. A California-based company is making these accusations in a lawsuit. NTD's Evelyn Lee has the details.
A U.S. company is suing Huawei. They're accusing the Chinese telecom giant of stealing trade secrets and spying. On Wednesday, California-based software company Business Efficiency Solutions, or BES, sued Huawei in the state's federal court. BES says Huawei stole classified data after working on a project together for Pakistan. The lawsuit also accuses Huawei of using BES's systems to install backdoors that allowed the Chinese company to spy on Pakistan. In 2016, Huawei hired BES to construct citywide facial recognition surveillance camera systems in Pakistan. Huawei marketed this system to the Pakistani government as a crime-fighting tool. BES claimed that Huawei requested that they create a backdoor in the surveillance system that allowed the Chinese firm to have access to Pakistan's national ID records, tax records, and criminal records. It claims that Huawei threatened to withhold payment to BES if they didn't do it. Huawei denies those allegations, saying there is no evidence of any backdoor. These citywide surveillance system projects are attracting criticism from governments and rights groups. They say it's a means of exporting China's mass surveillance practices to other countries.
When you think about having fun, what comes to mind? Maybe young children being goofy and playing around? Well, according to one professor, you should start focusing more on your own fun. NTD's Arian Pazdar has that story.
Looks like fun, huh? Imagine you with your wife, best friend, or maybe your husband, just having some time to yourselves and enjoying the day. Actually, do you remember when's the last time you did something like that? Because if not, you might want to start planning. We spend a lot of time working, but how important is it to have a little fun once in a while?
So important. That's why you live, right?
Psychology professor Laurie Santos at Yale University told NTD a bit of fun can go a long way.
That fun is something that's super important for our mental health. It can improve our immune function. It can just kind of make us feel less burnt out.
In Laurie's podcast, The Happiness Lab, she explains that feeling less burned out also makes one more productive at work. Now, some might think about a long night out when they hear the word fun. But apparently, that's not what it's about.
What's the most fun time you've ever had? It probably wasn't necessarily, some random night out at a bar or a dinner party. It was like a time when you felt like fully in flow, right? Like time is streaming by, when you felt really connected.
And good news for those who don't have time to play mini golf every day. As with most things, as long as you do it regularly, a little bit of fun is enough.
Like a conversation with somebody you really enjoy chatting with, or a little mini sing-along, in your living room for 10 minutes, after work.
Arian Pastar, NTD News.
An Olympic athlete's selfless act to help a young boy isn't going unnoticed. Polish javelin thrower Maria Andrzejczyk posted on her social media saying she heard about an infant who needed a life-saving heart surgery and needed help. Well, the power of social media strikes again. The athlete posted she was auctioning off her silver medal from the Tokyo Olympics. A Polish supermarket chain, Zabka, won the auction with a bid of $125,000. That money will allow the boy to get the surgery at Stanford University Medical Center. And to make the story a little sweeter, the supermarket decided to give the medal back to the javelin thrower, making it a donation to the boy's cause. There was barely a buzz in the air as beekeeper John Miller pried the lid off one of several bee boxes in Gackle, North Dakota. A scorching drought there has devastated bee colonies and, in turn, threatened U.S. food crops. Chris Dignam reports.
This is an abnormally small amount of honey.
Beekeeper John Miller of Gackle, North Dakota, is sounding the alarm.
This is kind of a wake-up call. 2021 is a wake-up call for certainly beekeepers and ag in general.
A scorching drought is devastating bee colonies in North Dakota and slashing honey production in the top producing state. But the shortage of bees is not just threatening honey production.
This is big.
It's putting cash crops like almonds, plums, peaches, and apples at risk all along the West Coast, where these bees are hauled by truck in the fall and winter to pollinate orchards.
These beehives we're looking at today are not as strong. There's not as many bees inside these boxes as a normal summer. I think beekeepers need to be aware of that going into fall. You know, this is going to be tough.
Extreme weather events are rippling through the food chain, raising food costs and heaping economic pain on small-scale farmers.
North Dakota is in an exceptional drought. It's like the entire state is either severe or exceptional, and I can't recall us being this bad since 1988. Our production will probably be a third of the new normal, which is a third of the old normal. If that makes sense, this is not good.
The scarcity of bees and the resulting higher costs to lease them for pollination only adds to the challenges of West Coast growers already dealing with their own drought, and in California, soaring water costs. The drought's impact is also expected to extend to the consumer, adding to soaring costs at grocery stores.
Everything that's reported on television isn't always true. But it should be. NTD, the power of truth. Now available 24/7 on television and streaming platforms.